everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is a slightly different video, slightly different in that it's kind of specifically going to be talking about one thing whilst I do my plan with me. I am going to be planning, retro planning, so this week has already passed. This was 2 weeks ago, the week that my third son was born. So I have this really cute kit which I'll show you in a minute. And I'm going to be talking through my birth story because I asked if people would like to hear that, and a couple of people messaged on Instagram and said, yeah, I definitely would like to hear that. So for those of you that do want to hear it, it's going to be here, and it will entail most of the stuff that birth stories will entail. So if that makes you squeamish or not for you, then that's fine. I'm not going to be offended if you don't watch the video. I'll be putting pictures of my, like, me and the boys, and anything like cute from that week. I'm going to be printing off on my Sprocket and using that, so it's almost a bit like a memory plan and journaling type mix-up situation, which I haven't done in a long time, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Toby is actually lay on the bed behind me, so he's here whilst I am journaling this, which is really cute. And I've just tested my Sprocket to see if it works, and I have this picture, which was one of the first pictures that I had taken with him. It's not the first one. The first one will be in here though, and that one's a knot as put together. I've got mascara running down my face and everything. So yeah, I tested it out and it's all working. So this kit that I'm going to be using is the Hello Love kit from or Little Love or Hello. I'll put the text here so you can know exactly what it's called, from the Pink Planner shop. There's a lot more pages than these two, but my printer is just not having any of it. And also on that note, my printer is not the best quality, so where these colours might be a bit more muted and it'd be a bit more grainy, that's because my printer is not professional quality, it's just personal use. So the shop colours are beautiful and vibrant, but obviously this is a printable shop, so it depends on your printer when you purchase the kits, which kind of goes without saying, but just in case you hadn't considered that. So I'm going to use my Sprocket, this kit, which if I just show you, it's gorgeous. It's like grey and teals and pinks, which are just beautiful. My son's in grey at the moment. I'm obsessed with him in grey, and this little baby with the hat on here just looks exactly like he looked on one of his pictures, his first pictures. So I will show you that as well in a minute. And then we have the second page, which is the washi and the day covers. There's loads more pages, and if I can get it printed I'll show you them, but for now I'm using those. My pink highlighter, my grey mild liner, I'll use a ruler, and my rose gold zebra pen. So that's all I should need. Oh, and some stickers from Papershire, which obviously Papershire features in every single thing that I do because I just love the stuff. So I have got notes here of like everything that happened the week that he was born, so I'll go through all of that. I think because I've got Toby here with me and things are likely to be disrupted, I'll probably do this without audio, and then I'll add the audio in. So I'm sorry if after this moment the audio gets worse. I do need to invest in a microphone, and I will do that eventually, but when finances allow I will do that. So yeah, this is going to be the week that Toby was born. So it covers the 21st to the 22nd to the 28th. Yeah, 22nd to the 28th of March 2021. So let's do it. First of all, before we get into the voiceover thing, I will just show you quickly how to use this Sprocket app if people haven't used it before. And this is an old Sprocket. I've had this for about 3 years now. You can get much newer, probably much better quality Sprockets. And this is my... you hear that? Little noises from Toby. This is my old phone, so I'll just show you by using that. So I have just took this picture of him on the bed. But I'm not printing that, I just took it. So oh, this was the picture I was telling you about. So this was when we went back into hospital with him with his jaundice, which I'll talk you through in a minute. And this was the picture where my makeup is absolutely everywhere. It's quite funny. So this is how I use it. You select the picture, and I have pick collaged 2 pictures together because this is quite big, so I'm basically gonna cut them in half and half the size of the pictures, so I'll get twice as much and they fit better in the spread. So I'm gonna go ahead and you just literally turn it on and the white button will come on, and then you wait for it to go green here so it like pairs up. Watch it not work now. There we go, it goes green on here, and then you just press print and it says your photo will now print, and it will, all being well. Hopefully I put paper in it, because normally it pops out straight away. Oh no, there we go, it's coming. So it comes out here and you'll get to see the speed of it. It comes out of this bottom part here, and it will show you what it looks like when it comes out. I do love this sprocket. I haven't used it for ages though, so I'm really glad to have something to come out of it. And I think what I'm going to do, because I've been inspired by quite a few YouTubers recently, I'm going to use my Simply Gilded B6 Traveller's Notebooks to do some creative journaling. Oh, that's great. I've got 2 photos of myself. Hang on, that's because before I press print twice. Okay, now it is actually going to print that one. Oh well, I don't actually know anyone who'd want that. So we've got a spare of those. What was I saying then? Yeah, creative journaling. So I'm going to use my B6 Simply Gilded for that, and I'm just going to do like, not every day because my life is not that interesting, but I'm going to do like key holidays. So I think I'll start a 2021 one, and I'll start with New Year, Valentine's Day, Pancake Day, Easter, the day that baby was born, etc, etc. So here we have it, and I've split it into 2. I'm going to cut it down the middle, and then I'll just do the last, I think 2 I did. So this one, print, it should come out. I don't know how many pieces of paper I've got in there. You buy them in packs of 10, and they're not the cheapest, but they are worth it if you don't like use them all the time. And then the last one is this one that I'm going to do, which is when my boys met each other. Well, the 2 older boys met Toby. So I just think these are really cute, and I actually need to get my big scissors. I don't know though. I'll ask my husband to bring me those in a minute, so that this makes a nice even cut. I don't want to use my tiny ones because I want one big cut on there. So there we have Grayson feeding Toby, which he loved, and then my gran, bless her, preparing some flowers for me. And then the last one, print. Hopefully it's got paper, and then I've got everything I need for the spread. So, oh no, there we go, out of paper, so that's probably a good thing. Ooh, because I can show you how this works. So I just keep everything in this pouch here. I buy these 20 sheets, and then they come, like, you open them, you get 2 packs of 10. So I've got 20 in there, and then another 30 here. So I have enough to keep me going for a while. And then you literally just push, it opens up, and then you open them like this. This just reminds me of getting like Pokemon cards as a kid. Must load facing down, so that goes down. I was second guess myself. Like that, and hopefully that will print. Let's just check. Yeah, printing, and that will print. The blue thing will come out first, almost like alignment, is it, when you get a printer? And then the picture will come out. So we'll see that happen, and then we'll get on with the spread. Hopefully this isn't really boring. I know a lot of people, when I put the sprocket in videos, always ask me what it's like, how it works, what do you do, etc, etc. And like I said, this is the old one, and when I got this for Christmas, it included this skin as a freebie, so I had to go online and order it, but it came free. So that's where that was from, and I think you can just go on Google and type in HP Sprocket skins to print something like that off if you want one for yours. because it really does make it look super cute, which I like. So that's done now. I can put that in the bin. Pictures coming through. Okie dokie, here it comes. One thing that is really annoying that I just found out today, I was trying to pair my new phone with this and it would not recognise it. And it turns out that you have to forget the connection between the sprocket and the device for it to go to any other, which is really annoying, because if I'd have got rid of that phone, I don't know whether this would have worked. So luckily I kept the phone and I could turn it on and use it. But yeah, so there's the other two. I'm obsessed with those pictures. And again, you can see, I mean, he looks really massive here. He's very swollen from birth, but you can see his little beanie hat, which just reminds me of this little fella's beanie hat. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with actually planning this now. Pop my sprockets to one side. I've got these pictures to be playing with, a kit, which I'll lay down first, and then I've got some stickers from Papershire that are all baby related too. So I'll get on with that and talk you through my birth story as we go. Toby makes some weird noises, which is one of the reasons I'm going to do this on an audio later. But yeah, here we go. So I guess I will start at the beginning, which like way before he was born, and just let you guys know that Toby is my third child, third pregnancy, third child, third boy. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old and Toby, so I currently now have 3 under 5. Only reason I'm mentioning that is just because obviously first pregnancies can be different to subsequent pregnancies, although in my experience all 3 are completely different. So whether it's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, I imagine you don't have a clue what's going to happen anyway. Yeah, because all 3 of my labours have been different. The pregnancies have been relatively similar, but the labours have been different. So this is obviously going to be my birth story chat whilst I am doing this plan with me. You can see here I've popped down all the day covers and the washi as I normally do. So as I'm doing that, I'll start with sort of history of my deliveries. So I've had vaginal deliveries with all 3 of my boys. And I was induced technically, like I went in to be induced for all 3 boys as well. For my first son, who was born in 2016, I went in to be induced at 40 weeks because I had really bad PGP, which is pelvic girdle pain, and it got to the point where I couldn't sleep. Lay down. I couldn't lie down at all. I had to sit in a chair because my pelvis wouldn't allow me to move certain ways. So basically it was really painful and I wasn't able to get my rest, so my consultant let me be induced at 40 weeks. So that was with him, and it took 24 hours for me to have him from induction, like from checking into induction. My second son, he was tracking big on the growth scans, and because of my history and being induced before, they let me be induced at 38 weeks. So he was 2 weeks before full term, and Grayson, my firstborn, was £9.3 at 40 weeks. My second son was £8.10 at 38 weeks, and Toby was a whopper. So I'll get to that in a little bit. So I was induced with all 3 boys. This one, they weren't going to induce me. They said that he wasn't tracking that big, so that didn't qualify me for induction. So they basically just said, you're just going to have to ride it out and see what happens. So on the 22nd, which was the Tuesday, no, it was the Monday, I had a clinic appointment to go and see my consultant to discuss how things were getting on and also to have a sweep. So a sweep is basically one of the things they do to try and induce your labour before an official induction. I won't describe it in detail here. If you want to know about what a sweep is, type in membrane sweep into Google and it'll soon show you. And it was super early, it was like 8:40 or something early in the morning. So I went in for that, really hoping that would start things off and whatnot. So I went in, had that. And when I was speaking to the consultant, he said, have you felt him move today? Now, bearing in mind this was really early in the morning, I'd got up, got my 2 boys ready, drove to the hospital, always moving, on the go, and so I hadn't sat and really noticed. So I just said, no, I haven't felt him yet today, not worried in the slightest, it's still early, I've not even eaten or drank, etc, etc. But then he said, well, when did you last feel him move? And I said, well, it will have been last night before I went to bed, which was about 10 o'clock, so, and it was fine then. So anyway, he then was like, okay, well, officially that's 12 hours with no movement, because by this time it was nearly 10 o'clock, because, waiting in hospitals. It was nearly 10 o'clock, so he said, that's 12 hours of reduced movements or no movements. We need to monitor you. We need to put you on an ECG, not an ECG, what are they called? I can't remember what they're called, but put you on those and we'll monitor you for a little bit. So anyway, they did the sweep. Then I went round to the MFAU, which is the Maternity Fetal Assessment Unit, for monitoring. They gave me a really cold bottle of water, and he woke up as I expected him to. I wasn't worried at all, but because I'd said that, they had to cover themselves, I think. So anyway, half an hour of monitoring, he was absolutely fine. And then I went back through to speak to the consultant because he wanted me to go and have a little debrief with him after monitoring. So I went back through, and he basically said, well, it all looks good, which is great, but because you've had 12 hours of reduced movements, no movements, you qualify for induction. Now, I was made up about this because I really wanted to be induced. I could feel that the baby was really big, and they said he wasn't, but I felt massive. I felt so different, so much bigger than I did with the boys, and it was obviously something I was keen to do, is to start labour off, as most women are at the end of their pregnancy. So he said he could book the induction in for the next day, which I was glad about because I thought he was going to make me do it the same day, and Graham had job interviews that day, so I was like, oh, please don't do it today. But he said he could do it the next day, so we booked it in for Tuesday the 23rd of March, and that was at 11 o'clock to go to the hospital. Quick sidestep, I absolutely love this foiled header washi from Simply Gilded, and I've never had a chance to use it before because I don't tend to branch out to anything other than pink, so I was really pleased that this matched the kit so well. But I was so upset because he said partners aren't allowed to go to induction. They're only allowed to be present with you when you get into established labour, so 4 centimetres or more dilation. When you go to the delivery suite, they're not allowed on the induction suite. So I was absolutely distraught because with my first son, when I was in the induction, I had to labour through the night, and because I was on a ward, Graham wasn't allowed to stay, and I hated it, and it was really, I don't want to say traumatic because that sounds really dramatic, but it was a big deal for me to do that on my own through the night, and I didn't want to have to do that again. So I was really sad, but obviously I wanted to start the labour off, so it was a bit of a catch-22. So yeah, I was really sad about that part. But we went home, packed everything up, which is why I put that cute little sticker with the onesies and things like that. Packed everything in the hospital bag, made sure everything was in there, and then got ready for the next day. So on the Tuesday, my husband dropped our son off at school. My mother-in-law came over to look after our 1-year-old, and we toddled off to the hospital. And Graham, my husband, said, I will stay in the car. I will stay in the car and sit outside the hospital, bless him. Bearing in mind, inductions can take days. So we just sort of thought, we'll play it by ear and see what happens. Because I was going to, because I was a bit worked up about it all, I was going to say, can you put in the pessary, can you break my waters, whatever it is that you're going to do, and then can I go home and get into established labour myself with my husband. So I was going to approach the midwives and ask all these questions about whether I could go home after the initial, whatever it was going to be. But anyway, as I turned up, I was really emotional, and I walked onto the ward and I was crying, which I'd forgotten about. So they were like, oh, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just a bit emotional because my husband can't be here. And they were like, oh, he can, because you're in your own room. And on the ward so he can come in. So I was absolutely ecstatic. Like, I can't even tell you how happy I was. I rang him up and was like, you can come in. So he got all the stuff out of the car, came through, and then that sort of started the day off so much better than I did expect it to go. So I was so pleased about that. So yeah, really, really happy about the way that went. And then I basically got in, got myself settled down, and then they came and checked on me at about, they came and did like initial observations at about 12 o'clock. Was there about an hour before they came to see us. 12 o'clock they came in, she did my blood pressure and it was really high. But I think it was just because I was so stressed about the whole thing without Graham and whatnot. So she came back and did it again an hour later and it was fine. And then they put me on the monitor for the baby's movements and heartbeats, and that was about 1 p.m. I think that was what was next. In fact, no, they actually did do an examination, and they found that I was 3 centimetres dilated. This was about 1 o'clock, and my waters were ready to burst. And they basically said, you do not need to be induced like medically. You don't need to have the pessary or the prostin or anything like that. We literally will just break your waters for you. So I was really excited about that. But as luck would have it for me, the delivery suite was absolutely jam-packed full, and they couldn't break my waters responsibly, basically, because if they did and I laboured, there's not enough staff to cover me. So they said, you're going to go onto a list of people waiting to go through to delivery suite, and you're currently 4th on the list. And at that point, Graham could only stay till 9 p.m. and it was 1 p.m. And being 4th on the list, they basically said, look, it's unlikely that you're going to be induced, like you're going to have your waters broken today. It'll probably be tomorrow. Graham will probably have to go home at 9 and come back in the morning at 9. Which again, I was not really made up about, but those are the rules, so nothing could be done about that. So then they put me on the monitor, and for a couple of hours they monitored me sporadically. I went on the ball anytime I wasn't being monitored, bounced around, ate some food. The midwife's shifts changed. We watched films. Graham was watching Star Wars. I was watching Hamilton on my iPad. And I just bounced on that birthing ball as much as I could, because I just really wanted to try and bring things on naturally as best as I could, which is what I almost did. So the midwife then came in and she put me on the monitor again, and I was having contractions at that point, but they were so mild. Like, I would say it was like a really strong menstrual cramp. So the ones where you're like, oh, this is horrible, I hate being a woman, get a paracetamol. So that kind of strength, nowhere near what I'd expect like labour contractions to feel like. But they were regular and they were definitely there. Then the midwife came in and took me off the monitor. She said she could see that I'm having contractions. Are they painful? I explained what I just said to you guys. And then she asked if they could examine me again, because that could change what's happening, and where I am in the queue, etc., etc. And then she asked if the student midwife could do it first, and then could she do it after. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. So the student midwife goes to examine me. So she does that, and then the midwife does it next. And she says it was really confusing because she looked really confused, and I couldn't tell whether it was good confused, bad confused, but she just looked really confused for a good 20 seconds, and I was just looking at Graham like, why does she look so confused? And she said to the student midwife, how many centimetres do you think she is? And the student said 7, to which I laughed out loud, because I was like, there's no way I'm 7. I was 3 before. Nothing really has happened. There's no way I'm 7. And the midwife said, no, I don't think she's 7. So I was like, yeah, I'm not 7. She said, I think you're 10 centimetres dilated. And honestly, my jaw hit the floor. And I was like, no, there's no way I can be 10 centimetres dilated. And apparently she thought I was. So they said, look, we're going to call delivery, we're going through. Graham went white as a sheet. I felt like someone had just smacked me around the head with something. I couldn't believe that I was 10 centimetres. And she basically said that the waters were bulging so much that it was pushing my cervix to 10 centimetres, and that when the waters were broken, it would likely go back to sort of 7-8 centimetres. But I'm certainly ready to go through, because if the waters go at this point, the baby was in a tiny bit of an odd position, and she didn't want the waters to go and the baby to be pulled down in that position. So she wanted it done in a controlled way in the delivery suite. So that is what happened. We packed up, we went to delivery suite. We got to delivery suite about 8 o'clock, and the consultant came in, checked the position of the baby and said, yeah, there's slightly, it's not, the optimum position, so I'm going to controlled break your water so that it's slow and not like a gush of water, because the problem was if it gushed, then he would be brought down in this awkward position. So they did that. It all went really well. They did it in a really controlled way. He was in a good position again. And then there we go. That's when it started. I had my gas snare. Every time I had a contraction, I used the gas snare. And then it got to the point where I wasn't really coming off of it. I just was constantly breathing it, which I was okay with because it was keeping the pain away. And long story short, we went back to 8 centimetres, and between 20 past 8 and sort of 10 past 11, so 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 3 hours, I was in that stage of labour, getting to back up to 10 centimetres. And somewhere in between 20 past 8 and 11 o'clock, I was offered more pain relief than gas snare. Now, I didn't really have a plan. I just was going to go with it. I probably could have done it with just gas snare, but I didn't. I was in the moment and I was like, yes, I'll take more pain relief, because why would I want to feel more pain? So I ended up having diamorphine, which would be the first time I'd ever had it. I didn't have it with my other boys. With my first, I had an epidural. With my second, I only had gas snare. So all 3 were different. And yeah, so the diamorphine didn't seem to help. Nothing got easier after I had the diamorphine, but Graham seems to think that things would have got a lot worse if I hadn't had it. So I had it anyway, and nothing got worse after that. So maybe that was a great thing. Then I felt the urge to push, and the whole time I was in that stage of labour in the delivery suite, I was on the ball, on the birthing ball. So I was sort of getting gravity to help me get the baby down. And then when I felt the urge to push, they told me to get back on the bed, which in the moment I didn't question, but actually I wonder why they did that, because they say normally that being on the bed, like on your back, isn't the optimum birthing position. But I was actually sat up, like my seat was pretty much vertical, and then I was in stirrups. So it was, they just told me where to go and I went. And I pushed once and his head came out. Then I pushed again and his body came out. So it was a bit rapid, that little stage of labour, that final stage was really rapid, which I was glad about, because I can't imagine these poor people who have to push for hours. That must be really intense. So yeah, baby Toby was born at 11:24 p.m. On the 23rd. He made it in time to be born on the 23rd, which I was really glad about, because my birthday is the 23rd too, and I kind of wanted to share that with him. Mine isn't the 23rd of March, it's October, but I like the idea of sharing that with him. And after that, everything went really smoothly. They handed me him and I was like, he's so small. And they said, he's not small. And it obviously wasn't until he got weighed that we found out he was 9 pounds 10 ounces, which made him my biggest baby. And yeah, I was shocked, because they kept saying to me, he's not going to be too big, he's not going to be that big. And he was. So everything went smoothly. The placenta was delivered quickly. I did have the injection to help that come out, and I did have a stronger dose of that, because in the past I've had trouble. I had a lot of blood loss with my first, because the placenta detached. It wasn't whole. So They sort of were cautious about that and took precautions. So they gave me an extra strong dose of the injection. The baby had vitamin K injection, and we had skin to skin immediately. And he latched on really well. I breastfed him in the hospital, and we had that little moment of bliss, which you can see there on the Tuesday. I look an absolute show, but I don't care. It was a moment that was just really lovely, and I'm so glad we captured it. The midwife took the picture for us. It was really cute. So that was great, and then all of a sudden I was just really tired, which I think is normal. And I fell asleep. Graham had skin to skin with Toby, and I fell asleep whilst he was doing that. And then the midwife came in and said, right, let's go, let's have a shower. And this was about 1 a.m. Let's get you up. Do you feel like you can have a shower? At this point, I just went along with it and was like, yeah, sure, obviously. I can't just stay filthy. So I got up, and as soon as I stood up, I felt violently sick. I felt like I had the worst hangover I've ever had in my life, and I assume it was the diamorphine. I went in and had the shower, but I was just vomiting the entire time. It was like a wet room, so there was a toilet in there as well. So it was just the most awful shower I've ever had in my life. But yeah, that was happening. I got through the shower, got dressed. Then they took me around to the postnatal ward. Is it called that? And Graham had to go home because it was in the middle of the night and he wasn't allowed to stay. So at 2 a.m, Graham went home to our house, and I stayed on the ward with Toby, which was a really weird experience. The first time I had a baby, I stayed on the ward on my own as well, but I'd had the baby at 6 p.m, so we'd had, a good couple of hours together before Graham had to go home. At like 11 he had to go, so this was quite rapid. He just disappeared, had to go home, which must be really weird for him too. And I was in this room with this baby, still like high on sort of adrenaline, I think. Really, I think when most new parents are like this, but just like didn't want to not stop looking at him in case he was not okay. And there was a lot of noise on the ward, considering it was like 2 a.m, 3 a.m. There was beeping going off. There was people just talking at full volume down the corridor. And I was in my own room, so I was lucky, but it was just really, really quite noisy. And for the entire night, so when it was dark, Toby was asleep, but making really weird noises. So it kept waking me up. And I was waiting. Basically, the reason I had to stay in the hospital, was because he hadn't had his newborn check yet. There was nobody available in the middle of the night to do it. When I had Theo, I had him at, I think, like 6:30 or something like that in the night, in the evening, and we were discharged at 1 a.m, but that's because he'd already had his check. So I was waiting for this check, which they said would be around 7 or 8 in the morning. So all through the night he's making these weird noises. I was not sleeping very well. And then at about 5:30, 6, I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to get up because the check might happen at 7 and then we can go home. And the second I got up and opened the blinds and let some sort of air in and light in, he stopped making the noises. He was silently sleeping for the entire morning, which was really weird and a bit frustrating. But long story short, the newborn checks didn't happen till about 11:30, so I was sort of sat there waiting for them. But obviously that's just how it works. Had the worst toast I've ever had for breakfast. When I had Theo, the toast I got was incredible afterwards. I remember it so clearly. This time around, it was the worst toast I've ever had. So I had that, and then they came around, did his newborn check eventually about 11. Everything was fine on that, so I was really pleased. And then they also do a hearing screening as well to check that he can hear in both ears. He did that about, I want to say about 12:30 midday, and he failed the test in his left ear. So we have to go back and get that done, and that's going to be Friday the 9th of April. So tomorrow for me, maybe in the past for you, to check his left ear and see if it was just full of fluid or whatever on the day, and hopefully he'll pass that. And then once he had both of those, I had to be prescribed some anti-clot injection or something that you have to take for once a day every day for 10 days, which I was absolutely distraught to hear because I didn't have to do that with my other two, and apparently that's quite common practice now, and you have to take the injections home and do it yourself. So I was not impressed, but I had to wait for the pharmacist to deliver those before I could go home. And eventually at 1:30 in the afternoon, they let me call Graham to come and get us because he couldn't come and visit because I was on the ward, and because of COVID and everything, he wasn't allowed. So he came and got me about 2:00, excuse me, and yeah, we went home, thank goodness. And that is when he got to meet his brothers, and you can see that picture of those two. I got them biggest bro, big bro and little brother t-shirts made, and you can see them there on the Wednesday afternoon, and also in the sidebar. That was when they first met. We got a really cute picture of them, and I was so glad it came out so cute. And that they're one of my favourite pictures of all time. When they met, and they're just so sweet. And Grayson, my 4-year-old, is especially just smitten with him. And you can see as well on the 25th, on the Thursday, he just loves babying him, feeding him bottles, holding him, singing to him. So it is the cutest thing. It's such a lovely age gap. And we basically just spent the rest of that week in this little bubble. Grayson was at school, so he was at school during the day and then would come home and just be obsessed with seeing his little brother. We had people come into the garden and stuff to meet the baby. And then you can see on the Saturday morning there, that's my grandma, one of my best friends in the world. And she she was arranging my flowers for me because I'm useless at it. And I love the picture of her. I think it just captures her spirit so nicely. So I wanted to put that in there. I don't have that many pictures of my gran, and I haven't, before today, I hadn't seen her since December, and we Skype every single day. And normally I see her so regularly, so it's been really crappy not being able to see her and stuff like that. So it was lovely to see her again in person and let her meet Toby. My dad came as well, and his girlfriend, and on the Sunday my sister and her boyfriend came as well. So there's plenty of people come into the garden to meet the baby, which is lovely. And then sadly, bless that little yellow Simpson picture in the bottom right there, on the Sunday, that was day 5, and in England your midwife comes on day 5, weighs your baby, does a heel prick test, blood test and a jaundice test. And I knew he had jaundice because he was definitely a yellowy colour, but I didn't know how much. And long story short, she rang me that same day and said the bloods had come back and the jaundice was so high that we needed to go back into hospital for UV treatment. So we got my mother-in-law over to look after the other 2 boys, and that Sunday night we went into the hospital to get the UV treatment. But luckily, it was a bit of a pain, but luckily they had got the gestation wrong, and they thought he was born at 37 weeks and 4 days, but he was born at 38 weeks and 2 days. And those, like, however many days, 6 days, makes such a big difference that he actually didn't need UV treatment. And we could go home, that we just had to keep an eye on it. And so that's what we did. So we actually only spent like an hour in hospital and then came home. So we're really glad about that. But yeah, I love the way this spread turns out. I think it's so cute, and I'll always love looking back at it. And I do think that not every week, but on weeks where big things happen, like I think maybe on Easter weekend, I'll add some pictures in, and birthdays and things like that. I'm going to use this sprocket more often because it just makes my heart so happy to look at these memories. And as much as artwork and spread, the kits are beautiful, you know, you can't beat your own people. I feel a bit emotional. They're just really cute. So I'm really glad that I used them. And yeah, I hope that wasn't too rambly and that it was interesting to you. And if you have any questions at all about anything birth-wise, please let me know in the comments. I'm not squeamish or, you know, sensitive about that, so please let me know if you want to know anything else. But yeah, this is how it turned out before the pen, and you will see very shortly now how it turns out with the pen. And I do really like it. I'm going to try out putting the mild liner over, and I might regret it, but at least you get to see it before and after. So yeah, I really liked how this turned out. And I think I'll probably use my sprocket a lot more in future because I've got it out and got it working again, and I just think it just adds a personal touch to the spread, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. And because my memory's awful, this is just going to be really nice to go back and look through all the pictures that normally are just stuck in my old phone, so I'm looking forward to looking back on these. And so yeah, that was my birth story, and if you got to the end, very well done, because this is 43 minutes and that's a long time. But yeah, I loved going back over it and remembering everything, and feel really blessed and lucky to have the family that I have, and my husband is so supportive in every way that he can be, so it just reminds me, doing things like this, of how lucky I am. And I hope that you guys are getting time with your families and loved ones and friends now that we are easing a little bit here in England. And if you're not in England, I really hope that you get to spend some time with your family very soon, because I know it's so difficult to not see them for a long time. But yeah, here I am just adding the pen in about all the different things that happened, which you'll know about now. And this is how it turned out in the end. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching if you got to the end. Have a happy and healthy week, everyone, and I will see you in my next video, which will be Easter week, and I'm sure I'll be adding pictures to that too. So yeah, thank you, bye!